Hello and good evening, and welcome to the July 14th Zenia City regular meeting of the Zenia City Council. At this time, we will have an invocation led by Pastor Chad Stapleton of Home Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Cody Branham. If you would all please rise.
Father, we just come to you today, and we just thank you for this time that we can come together. We thank you for each and every person that you've brought here to sit on this board. We thank you for each and every person that is in our community and every person that is comprised of to make this wonderful place that we call home. Lord, we just ask you that today as we move through different items, Lord, that you would give us wisdom as we process through. We ask, Lord, that you would be with each and every one of us. Lord, we just thank you for our first responders and those who are working in our city. Lord, we know that when the righteousness are in authority, Lord, that it goes well with those. And we just pray that we would continually put you first and place you at the first and foremost of everything that we do. We just ask, Lord, that you would be honored through our time together. We ask, Lord, that this would be a city that recognizes you first, and we thank you that that is a priority to our city. We just ask your blessing upon our town and our citizens, and thank you for your protection and your love and your grace towards us. We thank you that you've called us together to work together to make a greater place for each and every one of us to live together. We thank you for this time together. We thank you for every person that's here. We ask your blessing in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Stapleton. Thank you, Councilman Branham. This time I'll call the meeting to order. Ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Here.
Councilman Scrivens.
Here.
Councilwoman Dean. Here. Councilman Branham.
Here.
Councilman Dean.
Here.
Mayor Mays. President Smith.
Here. I would like to make a motion to excuse the mayor. She reached out yesterday. She has a commitment with Vacation Bible School at her church. So she has a report later. Vice President Urschel will read that. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Dean. Any discussion? Roll call to excuse the mayor, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Aye. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the June 23rd, 2022 regular meeting. Minutes are before us. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes, please? Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do we have a second? I'll second that. Seconded by Councilman Branham. Any corrections, comments, or discussion regarding the minutes? All right. Roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. There's no special presentation scheduled for tonight's meeting. Next on the agenda is opportunity for audience comments. This is a portion of the meeting. Anyone in the audience would care to come to the podium, give us your name, address for the record. Limit your comments 3 or 4 minutes, please. All right, have no one come forward. And Ms. Johnson, do we have any emails to share tonight? No, thank you. All right, there's no old business tonight, so we're moving into item 8 on our agenda, which is new business. Our first item is Ordinance 2022-21, which is titled an introduction. This is amending Title 8, titled Boards, Commissions, and Committees of Part 2, the City Government Zenia City Code. This time I'll turn the floor to Madam Law Director.
Good evening. With the adoption of the voter-approved amendments to the city charter, particularly Article 8 of the charter, we need to make some updates to Title 8 of Part 2, which outlines the boards, commissions, and committees of the city. These changes were reviewed with the Legislative Review and Government Affairs Committee on the 26th of May. They have recommended adoption. I'll just run through quick the changes and then any questions that anyone has. Basically, we're repealing 269, which was the general provisions. That is no longer needed in light of the charter amendments. We are keeping a chapter for Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals. However, your current Title 8, those chapters contain no sections. They're just empty chapters. So we did add some provisions. We kept a chapter for Civil Service Commission, and that mirrors not only the charter changes that were made, but the changes this council recently made to 274. We also are adding a chapter for the Charter Review Commission. Now, those 4 boards and commissions, Planning and Zoning, Board of Zoning Appeals, Civil Service, and Charter Review, those are the 4 that are charter created. So most of what's in those chapters simply outlines what's in the charter. We are eliminating the Loan Trust Fund Committee. That committee is currently made up of the finance director and 2 council members. Our goal is to have council's new Economic Development Standing Committee take over the functions of that Loan Trust Committee. The Economic Development Advisory Board, as we discussed at your last meeting, that is also being eliminated and being replaced with a council Economic Development Standing Committee. We are keeping the Recreation Committee, RACA, but we have renamed it. It is the Xenia Recreation and Events Commission. We did make a few tweaks to that, as this is a council created. We're going to give you the ability to appoint more than 1 high school student. If you would have more than 1 interested, they will remain non-voting members, but you'd be able to have participation from more. We are eliminating the Traffic Commission. We are eliminating the functions of the Traffic Commission now are really covered by council's, some things by public safety, some things by council's utility committee. So those functions were kind of moved over to those council committees. We also are eliminating the pre-treatment review committee. Those functions, again, were assumed by council's standing committee, that is the public service and utility committee. We are keeping the Records Commission. We are required to have one under state law. And the members of that commission, the city manager, myself, and the finance director, those are the members that are required under state code. We are also creating a Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council, as we have community reinvestment areas within the city. Under state statute, we are required to have this board. I think that covers most of them. Community Relations Commission, we are also eliminating that one. It was my understanding from the clerk that commission hasn't been active in over 20 years. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about any of these. Again, if you'll recall, with the changes to the charter, we do have the 4 boards and commissions that we have to keep. Charter created them. Council now has the authority, as you did before, we've clarified it, to create your own boards and commissions. So we try to keep in this the ones that you actually have. There's nothing that prevents council at any point in the future from adding any boards, commissions, or committees that this council would feel is necessary.
All right, thank you. Questions for the law director tonight? Yes, Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Law Director, you had indicated that we have in place, or are we planning to have, is that Community Investment Housing Council? Is that currently existing or not?
It is not currently existing.
And we intend to populate this
It needs to
council?
be.
Okay.
So we are creating it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Other questions for the law director? Okay, so
One other one I see, Mr. President, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The Community Relations Commission, that hasn't been active. You said now, has any activities grown from that, or is it just now a creature of the past?
I think a lot of it is now probably it's just a creature of the past. My understanding, and the clerk can certainly correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but I believe there was a moratorium passed by this council on its activities about 20 years ago. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yeah, January 20 years ago, they passed a moratorium at the chair's request, which was former council member Dr. Esprit. Due to lack of quorums, they couldn't get anybody to come to the meetings, and they couldn't get members to of the community to volunteer to serve on the committee. So they were very inactive the last year and a half, so they just did away with it.
One more. Now, how does this Community Investment Housing Council fit with our Zenia CIC? What's the relationship with that?
The Community Housing Council, the CRA Housing Council, its sole purpose is to review the CRAs. We are required under state law to file every year.
Right.
That council really only has to meet once a year. They're to review any exemptions, CRA exemptions that this council has granted. Is the person that tax exemption was granted to complying with the terms of the CRA exemption you gave them? You're to make that determination. You check off yes or no. That gets forwarded to the county, and then they file that information with the state development department.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Before we introduce, in our phone discussion, you had mentioned tonight that I need to make an appointment to the Economic Development Committee.
You can certainly do that tonight. Council did create the Economic Development Committee at the Standing Committee of Council. You did that at your meeting on the 23rd when you adopted your amended rules of council.
Okay, so the Economic Development Committee, I can appoint those members, and then do we need to vote on that, or is that just council appointment?
No, under the rules of council, those appointments are made by you, a chair, 2 members, and then an alternate.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right. If you're okay with that, I'll make that announcement this week then.
That'd be great.
Since we don't have to vote on that tonight. I do need to get with one other member to see if they wanted to serve. So with that being said, any other questions for the law director on this ordinance? If not, who would care to introduce? Introduced by Councilman Scrivens. Thank you. Our next item is Ordinance 2022-22, also titled an introduction. This is levying assessments for the improvement of city streets and public ways by the lighting thereof within Street Lighting District Number 1, known as Sterling Green Crossing Subdivision, for years 2023 through 2027. So I'll turn this over to Mr. Merriman.
Thank you, sir. Staff is recommending introduction of the ordinance, approval of which is the last step in the statutorily required process to continue the streetlight assessment for this location per city policy. Resulting from prior council action, Street Lighting District Number 1 is now constituted by the consolidation of several smaller previous lighting districts located within the Sterling Green subdivision. This includes sections 1, 2, and 5 of the subdivision. Upon ordinance approval, levying of the street lighting assessments, the assessments will be included on the individual lot owner's property tax duplicates from Greene County based on the city's current contract with Miami Valley Lighting, which also includes our administrative fees associated with the continuing assessment. Each lot owner would pay $31.14 on a yearly basis. And so this evening we are recommending introduction to take this administrative step to formally put this in place.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Merriman? All right, seeing none, who would like to introduce this? Introduced by the Vice President. Our next item is Ordinance 2022-23, also titled Introduction. This is also levying assessments for the improvement of city streets and public ways by lighting thereof within Lighting District Number 2, known as the Greenway Subdivision, Section 2, NKA Section 3 replat for years 2023-27. Mr. Merriman?
Thank you, sir. Again, as with the prior agenda item, this is the final step in establishing this lighting district, which, as indicated, is District Number 2, located within along the Greenway subdivision, those commercial lots there. Upon the ordinance approval, the street lighting assessment would take effect, and this would be included on the individual lot owners' property tax duplicates from the county auditor. The estimate here is $62.69 on an annualized basis. So we again recommend introduction of this to continue this district.
All right, thank you, Mr. Merriman. Any questions for our city manager tonight on this? All right, who would like to introduce this?
I'll introduce.
Thank you. Introduced by Councilman Dean. Next is Ordinance 2022-24, also titled Introduction. This is providing for the special election on amendments to Articles 6, 7, 16 of the Charter of the City of Xenia, Ohio. This set election to be held on the same date and times as the November 8th, 2022 general election. Madam Law Director.
This ordinance and the next ordinance are the last two batches of potential charter amendments for us to present to the voters that came out of the Charter Review Commission's report. This would encompass all of the articles of the charter except for Articles 11 and 12. After reviewing the committee's report, Council had already made it clear the article on elections and referendum and initiative, because it was so intertwined with 11, that you wanted to send that back to the next Charter Review Commission. So what we've done here is actually split this. The reason you have two ordinances is this would be two separate ballot items. Ordinance 2224 would be Article 6, which is city management, Article 7, which is administrative departments, and then basically would involve the repeal of Article 16. That's currently the safety services section, and that article is only being repealed because its contents would be moved to Article 7. There's been some discussion about among staff, particularly with the reorganization that we've been discussing as to whether or not we want to or should present this particular batch of amendments to the voters on November 8th. I will turn it over to Mr. Merriman here in just a moment. I will just say and it's up to council, it's completely your decision which articles we present and don't. For me, I would like to see us go ahead and proceed with 6 and 7. We are not that far away from the next charter review. It's every 5 years, so we're only a couple years away from getting our charter review committee together again. If there are changes that we want to make to 6, if I recall, if memory serves, that was discussed with the Charter Review Commission, that there may be some major changes that we wanted to make to 6, but we'd wait till the next round. Presenting these now would not prohibit us from doing that at the next meeting. So I'm okay with presenting these to the voters. I don't see any issue with us doing that, but it's up to council. And I would like to turn it over to Mr. Merriman for his opinion.
Yeah, I would just add, as council's aware, staff's been having a lot of conversation about some substantive reorganization, and based on discussions between the city manager's office and the finance department, we feel that there are efficiencies that could be created under a more complete reordering and consolidation, which our current and even this proposed charter language would prohibit. In the end, I would probably concur with the law director. There's no harm in this. It provides some additional accountability steps. There would be future opportunities for review of the charter again, where there could be some more advanced conversation on some of the changes that we've discussed at a very high level. So again, I'm not necessarily opposed and would defer to the wisdom of the council on the matter, but I think we should be open-minded in thinking in the future about some slightly reordering of things that would be reflected in the charter in terms of our overall structure.
All right, thank you. So with that being said, any questions for either city manager or the law director?
Sure. Madam Law Director, so there's, although our charter requires us to have the charter review every 5 years, we can call a charter review commission earlier than that, correct?
Yes, you could. You can appoint one whenever you want. What the charter says is at least every 5 years.
Correct. So I guess, Brent, if as we're going through this and we see some changes that need to happen in that structure, I mean, we could form a new commission next spring if we wanted to.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right.
Which is part of the reason I don't have any problems with this as a continuation of our current system. In fact, I think it's an enhancement of our current system. But again, I think there's an opportunity to at least have some advanced discussion on some alternative models. So.
Right.
And we just wanted to present it to you this evening that we understand, we wanted to present to you both our opinions. It's not our decision, it's
Right.
your decision.
Sure. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Brent, I don't believe there's anything in here that would cause us more issues moving forward.
Agreed.
Okay, good.
No, I think there are some, I think in all of this, there are some very good changes, and I think there was a lot of wisdom from the Charter Review Commission in updating, contemporizing things. What we've talked about is bigger picture, longer term.
Right, okay.
All right, thank you. Councilman Scrivens, for a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not a strict constitutionalist. I don't know what the framers had to say about how we frame this thing. But going forward, I think it's the best thing we got. It's a good management structure. It engenders efficiency, and it demands accountability. So I'm all for the changes. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Other questions? All right. If there's no other questions, who would introduce this?
Seeing how I was on the commission, I'll go ahead and introduce
Thank
it.
you. Introduced by Councilman Scrivens. Thank you. Our next item is Ordinance 2022-25. This is also titled an introduction. This is providing for the special election on amendments to Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the Charter of the City of Zenia, with said election to be held the same date as times as the November 8th, 2022 general election. Mr. Law Director, go ahead.
This is the final three articles, 1, 2, and 3. The reason that I'm recommending that we split this onto two separate ballot items is 6, 7, and 16 are related. 1, 2, and 3 aren't really related to them at all. As we've presented these items to the voters, as council's aware, we've really tried to group them into the articles that interact with each other. So 1, 2, and 3, 1 is the name of the city, 2 is the form of government, and 3 is the powers of the city. If you looked at the exhibits, A is actually right from the Charter Review Commission's report. This is definitely one of our shorter ballots. This is actually the exhibit B is what the ballot would look like. There's not a lot of changes made here. Really, most of what was done to 1, 2, and 3 was just clean up. But as we proceed and get our charter updated, it's been 20 years, the Charter Review Commission felt these changes were needed as well. So this ordinance would present 1, 2, and 3 as we'd have two ballot items on November 8th.
All right, thank you very much. Very clear. Questions for Madam Law Director tonight? I guess there's no questions. And who would care to introduce this item? Introduced by Councilman Dean. Thank you. Our next item is item F on the agenda. It's Resolution 2022-00. This is authorizing the execution of a 2-year memorandum of understanding with Zenia Community Schools for the services of a school resource officer. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Staff is recommending council authorize this evening the execution of this 2-year MOU with our partners at Zenia Community Schools. This would provide for a continuation of our school resource officer program. Pursuant to state law, an agreement between the city and the Board of Education is required to provide the services, and this outlines the roles, responsibilities, and finances associated with the program provision. As with the prior agreement, the new MOU stipulates a 50-50 cost-sharing model. However, for this one, beginning with this agreement, we would include, as we've discussed with council, an additional SRO who would be stationed at Warner Junior High. The term of the new MOU would start this August and run through the 2024-25 school year. I cannot imagine anything that we are doing in partnership with Zenia Community Schools that is more important than this. These positions not only provide security, on-site security for students and staff at these schools, they are also very, very important in dealing with a lot of issues that arise with students at home. And it's an excellent opportunity for us to have a resource in the schools to be able to connect with students and help them with a range of problems that they may encounter at home. So again, staff is recommending that council authorizes the execution of this MOU this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Merriman regarding these SROs?
Sure, Mr. President.
So,
Brian, would that be effective starting the school year then?
That's correct. Yep. I should add as well, we think there's the possibility for some additional changes where we would want to look at the situation with our elementary schools. And so I think Chief Stutes is intending on having some discussion with school administration, and it's probably time or maybe past due to have some discussion about security arrangements at our elementary schools as well. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Merriman?
I've got one question, Council President, mostly for Jason. I just went through the proposal and I seen that the salaries were the same year after year. Is there any, complications with that for the fact that, of course, those officers would actually get a raise per the contract negotiation that we agreed on from one year to the next?
I believe there's 2 more years of the collective bargaining agreement, that the years that are in this contract are already set by collective bargaining, so we shouldn't see a change.
And I think this assumes an officer at top step, full family insurance and everything. So we're assuming the maximum, hoping that there's a lesser cost.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure that was captured, just to be safe and make sure. He's shaking his head, and Chief's shaking his head too. Like, hey, I did my homework. So.
And that's why we kept it at 2 years. As of year 3, we wouldn't have known because there'll be a new collective bargaining agreement.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, at this time, I'll seek a motion to approve the contract with Zenia Community Schools for the SROs.
So moved.
Thank you, moved by Councilman Branham. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, I think Councilman Dean beat you on that one.
That's fine.
All right, any other discussion? All right, so City Clerk, that's Branham and then Levi Dean. Did you get that? Okay. All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next item is Resolution 2022 double P. This is authorizing the city manager to prepare and submit an application for the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and a local transportation improvement program and execute those contracts as required for program year 2023 for Country Club Drive water main and roadway on North Detroit Street to its eastern terminus and this improvement project. I kind of butchered that, sorry. Mr. Merriman.
Thank you, sir. As indicated, the Ohio Public Works Commission has announced it is accepting Round 37 applications from local jurisdictions to use state-issue 2 funds for rehabilitation of local infrastructure. After a lot of discussion and evaluation, our staff has concurred in its recommendation that the city apply for funding assistance to upsize and replace the existing 10-inch water main that traverses Country Club Drive. This runs from North Detroit Street, terminates at the WGC, or this replacement would run through that distance from Detroit Street to WGC Golf Course. Over the past 10 to 15 years, we've had a handful of significant breaks on this line. The line is undersized for what's really necessary when you include the fact that this is the only water source to the Central State University campus. And so we feel like this would be a very competitive project given that fact and given the overall plan that we're proposing for use of these funds. If awarded the state funds, once the water main has been replaced, the city would completely rehabilitate, starting with base repair and then subsequent asphalt resurfacing of Country Club Drive, which is pretty rough. So we think it's a good opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here with this project. So we are recommending that council authorize us to submit this application. I would add as well that this is another project that's come up that wasn't necessarily in, this has been on our long-term plan, but not necessarily in our overall street replacement program for the next 5 years. We are due to have some discussions late summer, early fall with council about the trajectory of funding and strategy for replacement of our surface transportation infrastructure structure. So this is another aspect that needs to be incorporated with that. We'll be coming back to council, having some discussions here again in the coming months to talk about the overall situation. It's worth noting that several of the large projects that we have in the queue involving grant dollars from the state where we were already awarded, we're seeing revised engineers' estimates coming back as a result of the inflation that we're all experiencing in the realm of 20 to 25% higher than the original estimates. So I just want to put the warning out there that as we talk about use of ARPA funds and things like that, there's likely a good portion of those resources are going to be needed just to fulfill some of the project commitments that we've already been awarded grant funds, simply because the inflation is out of control. So again, we'll have more detailed conversation on all of that and how this works into that mix later. But again, given the timeline for this, we think this is a good project, good use of resources, recommending the application.
All right, thank you, Mr. Merriman. Any questions for City Manager on this resolution? All right, if there's no questions, who would make the motion to authorize the application to the Ohio Public Works Commission?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Thank you. Do we have a second? I'll second that. Seconded by Councilman Branham. Further discussion?
One question?
Yes, sir.
Brent, do we know what the award time frame is when we would know if we are going to get the grant?
Yeah, I think it'll be spring. Yeah, spring.
Spring next year.
Again, so this is program year 23. So Chris, those funds will be available in July of 23.
July
Yep.
1, 23. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Well, and you should know, because unless they've changed the way they do issue 2, they usually require a second resolution whereby you formally accept the grant
Accept the
fund.
funds, correct. So
Yes.
this is for the application, and then we'll do
Yes.
the acceptance of that.
Yes, this is, we typically call this the preliminary legislation, and then they require, at least they used to, require a resolution for you to formally accept the funds if they're awarded to us.
Right.
It's worth offering as well that the engineering staff has done quite a bit of due diligence with this, looking at the recent round of awards, how those were scored. And this goes on a scoring process. So we have to do a self-scoring, and we submit, and OPWC, well, I guess it's the county engineer, right, does a subsequent scoring, and then it goes off to the state ultimately. But based on our estimates, we feel pretty confident that this project would be awarded. In part, we've chosen to recommend a higher local share, which helps us to get additional points. But we feel like this is a priority project and a good opportunity. So again, engineering right at this point is feeling pretty confident that we would be awarded.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, sir. What's the timeline on the project?
So if it would be awarded in 23, construction early in 24. Now, realize this is a pretty significant project because you got to open a trench to put that new water main, because we're upsizing that entire water main. So that'll be pretty big inconvenience to those residents, but ultimately a big value and benefit to them. So that'll probably, all things considered, be several month project to do the water main, backfill all of that, and then do this rehabilitation. So it'll probably be through the summer in 2024.
All right, thank you. All right, if there's no other questions, I'll get a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens. Councilwoman Dean. Councilman Branham. Councilman Dean.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next item is a procedural motion. This is approving the schedule of bills tonight for the sum of $705,000. Mr. Lake, do you have anything else for us tonight? Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to pay the bills then?
So moved.
I'm sorry, who made that?
I think so.
One and two.
All right. And it's seconded? Sure. Okay. All right. So we have a motion by Councilman Dean and a second by Councilwoman Dean. Any other questions for Mr. Lake tonight on the schedule of bills?
Not a question, but a comment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I see where our police chief is going to increase his knowledge. We appreciate that. So as long as you getting it together, we'll continue footing it. So thank you, sir.
All right. Is that it? Thank you. All right. So we've got a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Vice President Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean? Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is appointed officials reports. Tonight, we'll start with the law director.
I just have one item. That's Mayor Mays isn't here for me to warn her, but to warn Councilman Scrivens, Councilwoman Dean, you, President Smith, as the alternate, legislative review. Plan on legislative review committee meetings before the second council meeting for the next 3 months. That's July 28th, August 25th, and September 22nd. As the city manager said, we have been working very hard on, it's something that we knew needed done anyway with the charter amendments. We're really pushing forward with it. Goes to, I think, what we're all trying to do right now is work smarter, not harder. Get our departments updated, get things streamlined as how things function. So we're looking at a whole rewrite of Title VI, which is city administration. We want to present that to council in chunks, make it easier for you to review it. I have not confirmed this with Brent and Ryan yet. I think with the dates we're looking at, my goal is going to be that we present that to council. We set an effective date for all of it of January 1. That gives us internally as staff time to get job descriptions updated, get personnel authorization updated to get back to you. So we do have a lot of work for you coming down the pike, but just my legislative review committee members, if you could please keep it on your calendars, the 28th of July, 25th of August, and 22nd of September. We are going to be asking you for meetings before the council meeting.
20 what of August? I didn't. August what?
August 25th.
5/25, okay.
Did you get them all through? I guess you did. All right, anything else about our law
Just that
director?
bad news, and that was
All
all.
right, just that? All right, anybody have any questions for the law director tonight? All right, thank you. All right, next is our finance director, Mr. Lake, sitting in for Mr. Duke.
Thank you. I'll point out that the city was awarded the Auditor of State Award with distinction for our financial reporting this year. Again, I believe that's 4 years in a row. It's usually only given to top 3 or 4% of the audits that the state does for local organizations. So I want to thank the finance department and as well as all other departments, because without them doing their job, we can't do our job.
All right, thank you, and congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was here for that, and the mayor, city manager, thank you. And there's nice discussion with the auditor, too. Yeah. Anyone have anything for Mr. Lake tonight? Yes, Councilman Scrivens?
Thank you, Mr. President. Where does the award hang? Is it on display or
It's probably in Ryan's office currently.
in Ryan's office? So the public would have to come in and go to his office to see his awards. I mean, I think it ought to be downstairs at least for a while, so the public can at least see the award. I mean, it's his, but he don't have to covet the thing. He can share it.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, thank you. All right, next is Mr. Merriman.
Just a couple of brief items this evening. First, just wanted to give council a heads up. Had discussion with the council president. We will plan on a work session next time. Lots of project updates, lots going on for us this summer. So we'll look to bring council up to speed on several things in conjunction with your next meeting. Second, wanted to take an opportunity to thank all of our volunteers and sponsors who participated in the downtown block party as well as the Sunny Cap Fireworks Festival. We had an enormous turnout, and about 95% of the event went absolutely well without a hitch. Unfortunately, and I need to address the other part of this, as we've gotten a little bit of criticism, Mother Nature just decided to put her fireworks in front of ours. And just wanted to clarify a couple things. One, we recognize that we need to do a little better job of communication. So we have already talked about establishing a little different communication protocol so that we can let our partners and let the public know if we have to amend plans, exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what the plan will be. So we recognize that we could have done a much better job of that. This particular weather event literally blossomed right over Greene County.
Right.
It's not one that we could anticipate as a front coming.
It was very
We had very little time to really establish an alternate plan. Typically in these contracts with the fireworks vendor, we are able to include a postponement provision, but that's really designed more for us to be able to postpone if we have much more advanced notice. In an event like this, we had to shoot the fireworks off that night for two reasons. One, the amount of rain and the type of fireworks we're using, it was not practical for us to wait, for the vendor to wait with all of that moisture overnight. And number two, it would have been very difficult for us to remobilize all the forces that we need from fire, police, and public service after they had already been there all evening the night before, and that would have been significantly expensive. So again, I wish that it had been a little different. It was a fantastic show for those who stuck around or went to their cars to see it. But again, we will be working on some different protocol to communicate a little differently next year. And just want to reiterate a huge thanks to all of the churches that had volunteer groups, to Rotary and their staff for volunteering, some great sponsors including Kettering Health and others, the Sunnycap family obviously for their significant contribution. So really a great event, tremendous display of community pride, and we just want to thank everybody involved. So that's all I have this evening.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you to the staff for the work on that. Any comments for Mr. Merriman? All right, next is council comments and reports. We'll start with Councilwoman Dean.
Nothing done.
All right, thank you. Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few items this evening. Definitely want to compliment the city manager and his staff, and then all of the volunteers and everyone who was involved with our red, white, and blue and Kaboom downtown. It was just fantastic. Now, Mother Nature wasn't in a cooperative mood. As a matter of fact, I saw the fireworks from my front yard holding an umbrella, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. And I guess we have to either say it's going to be rain or shine, or, so. But I thought we did well having it on a Friday where we could excuse ourselves from extra costs. That was a good move. So just thank everybody involved. Also, we have some primaries coming up here that we all should either vote early or vote on the election day, and those issues need to be decided. I see where in the Congress of the United States they have produced a statute in Statuary Hall. They have 2 individuals from each state. And the state of Florida just put in Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. And for those of you who don't know who she is, she was a enslaved type individual that took $1.50 and started Bethune-Cookman University on the dump of the city in Daytona Beach. So they redid the land, but that's just the legacy. So she has her picture or her likeness in Statuary Hall, and she is the only African American that has come to the United States since the 1600s that has her likeness in the capital of the United States. So we're very proud of that, and we're looking forward to great things from other states who have other individuals that need to be enshrined. The former Senior Citizen Center, I want to thank you might be one of these days, Councilman Urschel and his group. Councilman Urschel deserves special recognition just about every meeting, because when he's not here, he's doing something. He's not just sitting around blowing hot air. So I have a tremendous respect for what he does when he's not in his chair. So just want to thank you and your group. I saw what you did, and I appreciate it as a citizen. So I want to say thank you.
Sure.
I just made a protocol visit to the African American Buffalo Soldiers Monument there, General Charles H. Young there, and I met, I guess he was the construction supervisor. His name was Mr. Bob Stemple, and he took his hard hat off and came out of the construction trailer and took us kind of a walk around of the approximately 60-acre property that the National Park Service will be developing. And it's a really nice project. They have a windmill there generating aeration to this pond that they've put in, and it's just going to be a nice place. So just want to thank Superintendent Robert Stewart for hiring some good people. And then finally, the COVID-19 is rearing its ugly head. Now, if you know anything about virology or anything, it's just like the other one, but it'll hit you. I just ran into a person just yesterday, had dinner with her. She was in Miami Valley for 13 days in a coma. And she had this new COVID-19 variant. So she said, tell everybody, Scrib, this thing is tough. So if you've not been vaxxed, you're encouraged. If you've not been boosted, you're encouraged. Matter of fact, I'll be going to Barr's Hometown Pharmacy tomorrow getting my second one. So I'll be double vaxxed and double boosted. But if you don't, that's a thing that you can contend with. So, but Mr. President, we thank the citizens of Xenia for showing themselves worthy of a great weekend that we had for celebrating our independence. So, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Councilman Scrivens. All right, Councilman Branham?
Yeah, I think most of my thunder's been stilled from 4th of July event. Thanks to our staff. Award of distinction for the finance department. I guess that means, Jason, you got to get your number 5. If not, you've let us down. Would also just like to offer my thoughts and prayers to the Clear Creek Township Police Department.
Yeah, I forgot.
Those individuals are going through a really rough time right now, and just want to let you know that we're thanking and praying for you guys in this difficult time. That's it from me.
All right, thank you, Councilman Branham. Councilman Booth?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything to say.
All right, thank you very much. Vice President Urschel?
Well, I just want to, so we met this last month with the Property Management Committee. Most of our activities though were done in executive session, so we'll be coming back at some point, most likely in executive session, having some discussions with the rest of the council. One item we did do though outside of executive session was, I want to thank our folks for putting this together. I had some questions about our street lighting districts and who owns street lights and how are those being maintained. And Jared and the folks on the maintenance side did a great job of providing that information. So my sense is at some point in the future, and if you've been attending the council meetings or watching what's going on, you've seen that we've had a few street lighting districts being created, but those really cover a very small percentage of the overall street lighting of the city. And we do have some portions, most of those we contract out, probably about 90% of the lights or 93%, but a small percentage we maintain within the city and stuff too. So we'll probably have some more discussion about that and the appropriateness either of having some additional streetlight districts created or looking at some equity then between all the residents on that. The mayor was not able to be present tonight. Just want to let you know, those of you who are watching, it's a privilege to be on city council. I think our normal daily pay is $12.
Hey.
$12, so hopefully you're getting $12 out of us. The mayor gets paid $14 for the privilege of doing a lot of additional work. And I'd just like to go over some of the activities and the items that she represented for us as the council and also for the city of Zenia. On the 27th, she met with the city manager and the folks from Kettering Health to continue looking at ongoing relationship with them and development within the city. She had the opportunity to be our representative at multiple swearings in of our fire department and of our police department. And so we appreciate her doing that with our new firefighter, Sherritt, and Captain Dill and Lieutenant Settner, and then also with our new majors as well too, as they got their promotions and was able to be there for that. She also had a number of meetings with Wilberforce University and Central State University, and with the president's forum there for Central State, and then also was our representative of the city there at a signing of a fairly significant MOU between Wilberforce and the state of Ohio. She also had an opportunity to attend the Association of Ex-Pupils reunion, which is an annual reunion out at the Old Ohio Veterans Children's Home, the OSSNA home, and the number of students and folks that were still associated with us and what they're doing in lives is just amazing. Just literally tens of thousands of students who went through that facility through the years and it was it's a time for folks to come back and remember the history of the home and significance, and it's something we just need to continue to honor. So we appreciate the mayor doing that for us as well too. She also got to attend a meeting, a number of meetings with county commissioners. One in specific is the laying down of the final plans for the Veterans Memorial, which is going to be out in front of the courthouse, and that's going to be a very significant memorial to each of the wars that our veterans from the counties have fought in. We have one block memorial out there that just says for all the veterans of the county, and this new memorial will have a reflection time of each of the wars that folks from the county fought in, and also an opportunity for folks to be able to have some space to reflect on that as well too. So look forward to that, and that's really going to be in addition to our downtown area and the improvements that we're doing down there as well too. I want to let you know that the mayor just doesn't go to these formal events. She's done a couple of ride-alongs the last couple of months as well too, and good for her to be out there late at night and see what our patrolmen are engaging with, and just get another sense of the community as well too. So anyways, I just want to thank the mayor for the time, and she's doing an awful lot for those extra $2 a day that we pay her for. So I think we all need to let her know that we appreciate her representing us in all these areas. So that's all. All right. And then one last item I'd like to add. I'd just like to tell the staff thank you. This last week we had an opportunity to meet with the Senior Area Association of Churches and Ministries. We have a yearly meeting with the city staff. And it was very well attended by pastors from the local congregations as well as church ministries. And Brent and Jared and company did a great job of just going over a number of the good things and the challenges that we have in the community, and some ways that we can be thinking about partnering together and reflecting on what we as the church associations can be doing there as well too. So just want to tell the city staff, in the midst of everything else, thank you for taking that time. It was very warmly appreciated. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Vice President Urschel. Thank you for that report for the mayor. I'll keep my report very brief. Yesterday, I had to get my license plate renewed. And as I was at the county building, I realized I can vote. So I early voted. And so early voting's going on. I believe right now the hours are 8 to 5. And there'll be some weekends, I think, before the August 2nd election. So not a lot, didn't take but about 30 seconds because there's about 3 things on there. So Charter Amendments 1, and then your primary ballot was also an option. So please, if you could, take the time to go out and vote. And also would like to congratulate again Ryan, Jason, and your staff for the award last week, presented here on July 7th. Also that evening, July 7th, Planning and Zoning had a meeting. We had a 90-minute public hearing on the first item, which was case PZC 2022-15. That was for a conditional use for 1384 North Monroe Street for a drug rehab and detox facility. That was denied and voted down 4-1. And also was a case PZC 2022-16. That was a preliminary plat for 13 single-family homes to be built on Lynn Street in Zenia. That was approved. And then the last item on our agenda was proposed land development code text amendment changes that will be brought back to council. That was recommended. So the next meeting already was informed by the city planner that there will be a meeting on August 4th. There are some agenda items coming to planning and zoning for that. So basically that's all I have in my report tonight. Does anyone have anything else to add? All right, at this time I will seek a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Dean and a seconded by?
I'll second that.
Thank you, by Councilman Dean. Roll call, please.
Vice President Mitchell.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Councilman Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.